All right, here's how this goes down. So we have asked Sid and Ann a few questions. So we gave them about 10 or 15 questions to choose from, and they're all brand-related questions. And the idea was that they pick 5 to 10, and we talk through those questions. We're going to do a Q&A at the end. If you use the hashtag #MadeInAtlanta, I'll ask the questions to them. So on Twitter, use the hashtag #MadeInAtlanta, and we'll ask some questions of them after. Again, stay after for the bus. And when you are talking to Sid and Ann Mashburn, you don't try to compete clothing-wise. That's why I wore the Atlanta United shirt. I actually thought, like, what do you wear when you like are doing a Sid and Ann Mashburn event? So anyway, sorry about my appearance tonight. But the main reason we're here is these two. Most people in Atlanta probably know Sid and Ann Mashburn as the store on the west side, right near the old Bacchanalia and Taqueria del Sol and the old Figo. And so they've been there since 2007. I got a chance to meet Sid a few weeks ago and have some coffee at their office, which is on the other side, right kind of near Ormsby's and Little Trouble. And they have quite an operation. I think most people just kind of see their store and think, this is a cool store, but they have a full-on operation over there doing e-commerce, doing their own production, their own, alterations, all that kind of stuff. And I left that place feeling inspired about brands. So they have pin boards everywhere, not Pinterest pin boards, like real world physical pin boards all over the office. And so it's pretty cool to kind of see that. Jonathan Baker gave me a quick tour. So anyway, excited to hear their story. They're kind of old school, so they don't want to use the clicker, so I'm going to do it for them. But let's call up Sid and Ann and hear from them. All right, I think these mics are good to go. Want anything to drink, Sid? No, you got pizza earlier? Okay, so I'll just kind of scroll through these and let you guys do your thing. But the first question you guys picked was a little bit of introduction and context. What is Sid and Ann Mashburn? And so you can see the photo as you're, just so you know what you're talking about.
First of all, a real sweet shout out to Evan. That was really nice what you said about us, and we benchmark off everybody we meet basically. So Evan was an inspiration to us, even though he didn't know it when we first came here in the business they built. So hats off to he and his whole team. So anyway, what is Sid and Ann Mashburn? We're a marriage, and that really is it in a nutshell. Because when we I'm originally from Mississippi and fled to New York as soon as I could when I got out of college, and I went to work. I wanted to go to New York to be a designer, and I asked my dad about that early on. He's like, "What designer? What does that mean?" And so anyway, when I got to New York, I couldn't get into design school. They said, "You're going to have to start over," and I was like, "I'm not doing that." And I got a job selling clothes again. And I said, "Well, if I sell your clothes, will you teach me how to design?" The guy said, "No problem." And I did. And one day I went to the beach with my buddies from Mississippi and saw this girl on the beach. And she saw me and...
We're going into our next question already.
Sorry. See, that's a marriage right there. Anyway, the point is we grew up together. I mean, I thought I'd kind of grown up before I got to New York, but I didn't know anything about growing up until I got to New York. As I said to Elaine, your mom, when you go to New York, you kind of sharpen up the rough edge, or sharpen up the dull edges and smooth out the rough edges, and that's what Ann did for me. So,
well, what we actually do here and what our brand is well, that was a great setup. I'm not good with the microphone. So what we do here is we started this shop here in 2007, as he said, but we. Since I met Sid, this is all he's ever wanted to do. He had all this great experience working for other designers, but he always wanted to do his own thing. So finally, after how many years? 20 years of marriage and lots of jobs and children, he finally got fired from the job that he just said, it's time to do this now. And so I said, okay. I had gone to business school, And so I was afraid of being an entrepreneur, knowing how much it's tough. But I said, I think you're employable. We'll put some money away for the kids for college, and let's move to Atlanta and start this. So that's what we did.
So we came here, and we said, finally she relented and said, okay, I'll let you do this. We've been poor before, and it wasn't so bad. And so let's go give it a shot. And we looked at 9 cities across the country. And I got it down to Chicago and New York. And she said, how about Atlanta? I said, how about fantastic? And came down here. I hadn't been to Atlanta in 20 years. I knew one person, or knew that I knew one person. And she took us under her wing and just totally took care of us.
It was February, and there were daffodils. And we
were living in Wisconsin. It was cold as hell.
And we'd been in New York, and I just thought, you'll laugh, but we were staying in Ansley Park, and there were all these daffodils, and I said, this kind of reminds me of London because of I don't know, but it's not. But anyway, our brand is really our personal vision of all the years we had working together in fashion. I was a fashion editor in New York. I was the assistant to the fashion editor of Vogue in the early 80s. Then I went on to be a fashion editor at Glamour magazine and worked as a stylist for J. Crew. Sid had all these great design gigs. And just over the years, we kind of grew up together. We built, made houses together with stuff that we found. And so our stores are really just an expression of the things we love, the way we've learned to express ourselves with what we wear and how we live. That's kind of who we are.
And I think the kind of the piece that's important for us is our business is a marriage of our heart and what we love to do. Because I love clothes and I love people, and if you can do that in one place, that's pretty fantastic. Now, the other piece I have to say is it's hard. I mean, what we do is it's hard work to really deliver that on a everyday basis, but the joy you get out of it is you can't beat. And so anyway, Atlanta welcomed us with open arms, and we built this book called our Culture Kit. We did it after we had already started. We didn't start out with a grand plan. We had a business plan, but it was not like, oh, we're going to build a brand. We just said we're going to get in business. And so after a few years, we said we got to get this stuff down on paper. The core values started with hopefulness and helpfulness. And that's what Atlanta just totally represented to us as a place where everybody thought, today's a pretty good day. I think tomorrow's going to be better. And the help that's here, I mean, you see this crowd of people here. I mean, everybody here, this is a place where you lean on people. And people reach out and help you up. And so the hopefulness and helpfulness was a huge cornerstone, foundational piece of what we do. So sorry to prattle on, but it's we've been fortunate. It's a gift from God that we came to Atlanta and have been able to experience what we have so far.
Can you guys talk quickly about your operation? So you were in Atlanta for how many years? 07 to what until you launched the second city and then e-commerce and all that?
Well, I'll do that because I'm a really fast talker. So we started with men's in 2007, and it was just meant to be a men's brand. But it was always meant to scale because Sid wanted to make his own things, and you can't sustain that with one shop. So the idea was always to grow. The third year into it, we started the women's side of the business. At the push of our landlord, Michael Phillips, who really is responsible for all the Westside Provisions place. Where Jenny's Ice Cream is now was my first shop, and it became vacant from a kid's shop, and he really pushed me to do women's. So we did that. Then in 2011, we did the website. 2012, we opened in Houston, Texas. 13 was, am I off?
13 was Houston, and then 15 was Washington and Dallas, and then last year was LA.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is one thing that was really critical is Michael goading Ann to do this was kind of interesting because we made that move. For those of you guys who are in business, I didn't know what we were doing. I had pretty good sense, but we opened that women's store not just because there was an opportunity, but it was a little bit of an offensive and a defensive move. The offensive move was Ann was super talented and had a point of view that translated well, but the defensive move is we were selfish about the neighbors we got. So your adjacencies or who you hang around with is really important, and I know you know that because you're building something here that depends on, who you're rubbing shoulders with. And so by being there and being a part of what was Taqueria, what was JCT, what was Bacchanalia, you had three kind of stars. But JCT was new when we started there. I think they had only been in business 6 months. But they were all winners. Eddie Hernandez and Mike Clank at Taqueria, awesome. Annie Petrano, who's maybe didn't get enough credit for being the true pioneer or true. Michael and Katie built that or started that shopping center, but they didn't have to move a business there, a successful business. And Annie moved a successful business from Buckhead down to Nowheresville at that time. And her customer said, "See you later. We're not coming." And of course, over the years, they all came. And she is more than a patron saint of that neighborhood. So if you surround yourself with good people, you got to step up to the plate and be good yourself. But it makes life a little bit easier.
All right, next question. I think we might have heard some of this, but what's the origin and story? What little background? You guys, you didn't talk much about what you were doing before you opened up the stores.
So it's a really great story how we met. He said we met on the beach, but I actually saw him first. And he was sitting about as far away as that guy in the red shirt. I know it's a really good picture. But I just, thought he was really cute. So I went over and asked him if he knew when it was at the bad beach in New York. It was not the Hamptons. It
wasn't even Jones Beach.
It was Long Beach.
Wrong beach.
Yeah, it's when you take the train, you just want to see the sky. So, but I saw him and I thought he was really cute. So I went and asked him if he knew when the trains were going back to New York. And, it was enough to make him follow me back to the train. But then I kind of lost him. Well, actually, I followed you to the train, and then I lost you. And then I sat on the train, and I saw that he got on, so I left an empty seat next to me. And when the train got moving, I invited anybody who wanted to sit next to me to sit down. And he jumped
on it, and then we, I asked her for where she was from. She told me where she was from. I didn't ask her for a number. I thought that was a tad presumptuous and kind of weird. And so anyway, I had a girlfriend too. So I got back.
I wasn't worried about that.
So I got back to New York. I'm like, man, who was that? And so I called her mother in Virginia, or called her parents. Back in those days, you called the area code 555-1212. Does anybody remember doing that? Yeah, thank you. There's a few of us in there. And so I said, "Oh, hey, Miss Daggett, I'm Sid Mashburn. I don't have Ann's number. Do you have it?" She's like, "Oh, yeah, it's right here." And so I'm in New York. I'm on the Upper West Side, and I go to call her, and I punch it out, and I'm like, "That is too weird. Yeah, she's going to think I'm a stalker." And so I just dropped it. And so...
So this is really long. It's really hot in here. We'll make this quick. But the sweet story is that I worked at, if you ever saw the movie The Devil Wears Prada, that was me. I was the assistant slave with tears in her eyes the whole time, and half-bitten nails. But I was on an outside photo shoot, and I went and I said this receptionist who was famous for being there forever, I said, "The man I'm going to marry is going to call me this week, so you have to answer my phone and not my editor's phone." But then he didn't call. So I ended up calling him and making up a story that there had been a previous party, and he asked me out, and then we got married. So.
And 5 kids later, we're in Atlanta.
But so my early days were in the fashion world, working with amazing photographers. I worked with Richard Avedon, Irving Penn, Stephen Meisel. It was really an amazing graduate school, so to speak, in fashion.
Let me interrupt for a second. I just had to say one super, super proud moment. Her first photo shoot was, does anybody in here know Cindy Crawford? Okay. Her first photo shoot was Cindy Crawford's first photo shoot. And one thing she said was really cool about the women those days. Okay, I'll say that. forget that.
He's jumping on my answer later.
I'm sorry. Anyway,
No, but we're really proud because in the September issue is like the biggest, obviously, if you've ever seen that movie. But we're really proud because in this September issue on Cindy Crawford is my white shirt, which I'm kind of famous for.
It's her first credit in Vogue magazine.
Yeah, and it's a really big picture.
It's cool.
So it's sweet that it came kind of full circle. So anyway, it's a great shot.
Anyway, she got me my first job at this nameless startup catalog in New Jersey, which does not add up to something great, but actually it turned out it was J. Crew. So I was the first menswear designer at J. Crew in 1985, and it was pretty cool because it was a startup company, and they were, my responsibilities when I started that, it was back then you had unisex clothes, which is so strange, but it was like a women's pant and a men's pant. They were the same fabric, but they were slightly different fit. It was weird. But anyway, I grew, we finally split that up to where it was just men's product. And so I oversaw all the men's product except for knits and sweaters. And what was cool about J. Crew back then is it was so iterative and so growing so quickly that I said, hey, we need shoes to shoot with the pants. And they were like, well, if you want to work on them, go right ahead. So it was almost like my design company. It's like whatever I wanted to do, they would let me do if I had the time to do it. So, of course, I'd get there at 7 o'clock in the morning and not leave till 8 or 9 o'clock at night every day because I loved it. I was like, this is awesome. And so, anyway, J. Crew was a lot of fun back in those days because the prices were good. The look was cool. It was kind of preppy, kind of hippie, kind of, a mix of stuff, but it wasn't too boxed in or just had a nice expression to it. And so I got recruited to go work at Ralph Lauren, which is like getting called to go work for go play for the Yankees. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And I went there, and it was like I went from being a big fish in a small pond to being a nothing in a big pond. And it was a wake-up call. And it's like, man, you got to get your game on if you're coming to this. And interestingly, the weird thing is I had more experience than most of the people there because I've been working on a lot more products. So J. Crew is actually more fun than Polo, but at Polo it was like it's finishing school. I mean,
You had to actually get your costume on to work there.
every day was a costume party. One day you're a cowboy, the next day you're a banker, next day you're an Indian, because that's the way Ralph dressed. I mean, every day seriously was like a costume party. But the one thing you did learn, because I worked closely with Ralph and Jerry, is how do you finish? It's kind of like when you were in school. Getting from a D to a C is one thing. Getting from a C to a B is another. B to an A gets a little bit harder. But getting from the A minus to the A plus, that's when it really gets hard. And that's what Polo did well. They finished hard. And no was never an answer. Let me see was acceptable, but that was really on your way to getting to yes. So they pushed hard and worked you hard, but it was fantastic. And so I left there a few years later and then went to work on a project out in California. And then we came back east. I went to work for Tommy Hilfiger and then ultimately got called to go work for Land's End out in Wisconsin. And Land's End, when I went there, the corners, the foundation of that's quality, value, and service. And they said, your mandate is to add style, but not too much. So
Yeah, I went out there thinking we'd be there a year, and then he would add too much style, and we'd go back to New York. We were there for 8 years.
And then I got fired. And so, and that's what led us to Atlanta. So, again, you don't really know what turns you're going to take. And also, no job is ever too small. If somebody offers you something that has some attraction to it, jump on it. Because you will always benefit from finding work in something that you can find some joy in and that you can learn in. So anyway, that's when we came here as myself and two guys, we kicked it off in 2007. And Atlanta just said, man, this is great to have y'all here. And we were around great people. And so here we are 10 years later, and it's been great.
All right, good stuff. How does your brand make people feel?
I think that kind of says it right there. I hope. I mean, that's what we're striving for. Does anybody know that Al Green song? Actually, Al Green and Teeny Hodges. We're kind of like that in a sense that we may seem kind of fancy and nice, and as Evan said, it's a place where you go to get dressed up. But if we're ever pretentious, it's over. We don't really want to go that way. We want it to be a product for every person and for every guy and for every girl. And so we even our merchandising strategy is something we call good, better, and best. And the good is we have Levi's jeans for $65 a pair, and we bespoke them for you. So you want a pair of Levi's jeans customized? We'll do it for $30. So for $95, you get a pair of custom jeans, which is pretty cool. And then we've made a suit for a guy that was $10,000, and you're like, $10,000? How do you do that? It was completely handmade, completely. So it was like a 50-hour job. And so what we're saying there is we want to we want the widest hug we can have for everybody. And, Ping, who's here tonight, others know him as Sang, was in a dressing room. I think it was Ping one day, a long time ago. And, Ping's kind of more of a little 5 Points guy than a West Side guy. And in the room next door to him was a guy named Paul Hudson, who's very much a Buckhead sort of guy. Runs a law firm and, seemingly square. And, these two guys come out of the dressing room at the same time. Well, basically, they leave the store together because they're talking about music and guitars. And so that's what we're trying to build, is a place where cultural crossroads kind of converge, and that there's no sort of barrier to the relationship. And that's why we have inexpensive things and really nice things, because I'd be embarrassed if we didn't. I'll be honest with you. So
we do a lot of educating in the shop, so that my hope is that a woman or a guy feels great when they leave, and they feel like they're dressed kind of the right way. I mean, we love fashion too, so I love to make somebody feel extravagant or creative. But in the end, I think for me, I take a lot of joy in dressing in the morning, but then I want to forget about it. So I think that I want to dress women, to get dressed and then get on with their day, and be able to move and know that they look their best, and not just have to worry about it, because there's nothing worse than just thinking about that all day. It's a waste of time. So
we're super practical about what we wear. Even though I'm sitting here, in a suit, I wear this all the time. This to me is practical, and so we don't look at this thing as too much costume or too much fashion. More so on the women's side than on the men's, and we love fashion. It's like, what's the practical aspect of what we're offering to people? Because guys are coming to us looking for a solution. Hey, help me. I've got this I've got to do. I've got a life change. I'm getting married, or I've got a new job, or I've got to go for an interview, or I've got to go to, my daughter's having a bat mitzvah, or, who knows what it is. We want to be there for those occasions, and we would love the idea that probably the most gratifying thing we do is serve people. And like I said, we love design, we love fashion, but serving people is where it's at, because that's when you get the return of a smile, or a thank you, or a, wow, I appreciate the way y'all made me feel. So ultimately, we want to make you feel special and like you're taken care of.
What's the experience people will feel for people that haven't been to your store? What's the experience that they feel when they walk through the doors?
When we first built the place, we just put a bunch of our stuff in it, and Sid had worked in retail, but I wouldn't say, we'd never set up a shop before. So we wanted it to feel like our home. We put a bunch of our actual stuff in it, but we put like a ping pong table in it. We have a tailor shop in it, because we wanted to show people that we actually know how to fix the stuff we have and sew custom stuff for people. And we knew we wanted to make a place where people just wanted to be, as not just to buy. So I hope when people come in, they feel welcome, they feel like it's just a cool place to hang out. And to Sid's point, having all different kinds of people there is more fun. So we have a wide range of, people always ask us who our core customer is, and we hope we don't have one. We hope we just have people who love clothes, and so there's young people, old people. So we tried to make a cool environment where people just want to be.
That also goes to who's working in the shop. It's a little, our team of guys and girls, it's a little bit like Ocean's 11. You know, I mean, you really, because you know, if you're an older guy who's a little bit bigger, you walk in, you don't want to see a bunch of young, skinny guys standing around. You're like, God, I don't identify with that cat. And he certainly doesn't identify with me. So it's important that we make it real welcoming. And one of the things we said early on, because there's only 3 of us in the store at the time, is hug them with your eyes. So when someone walks in the door, it's like, hey, man, come on in. And we get you a Coke or a beer or coffee or water first thing. First things first. Let's make you feel at home. You're coming into our home, and that's how you should feel, like I'm going into those guys' house. We should be like your neighbors. And so it's super important that we dial it down, because people are coming in for a little bit of a respite and to be taken care of when they walk in. So our record's on the turntable, and we play everything but no gangster rap, no death metal, because we got little ones and we got grandmas that come in. So manners are kind of big to us, is how do we respect the people that come through the door? And so, but anyway, when you come in, you got to feel like you can find something in there you enjoy doing, whether it's playing ping pong or looking through the records or just hanging out or talking to the Ocean's 11, because there's guys in there that can talk about motorcycles, music, travel, cars, all sorts of things. So it's a little bit like a salon in a sense, where you want to go in and find somebody that you can connect with.
All right, good stuff. Who are your brand's heroes?
Okay, so this is when he was jumping in on me. The first one is the woman on the bottom left. That is my first boss, Polly Mellon, who really is a lot like the, my left there, right? And I would say she and all these women I worked with at Vogue, because so she was 62 at the time, which I thought was ancient, but now that I'm getting up there, I think she, was younger than I remembered. But most of the women who were the big editors were in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And we did all these photo shoots where I worked with, Brooke Shields, Cindy Crawford, every beautiful, Elle McPherson, who was a freak of nature. I mean, so beautiful, you can't imagine. But when I compared the two, I always thought, if I could choose today whether I'd rather be gifted with, if you could turn me into this supermodel or turn me into these older women, I would prefer to be them, because they just were so cool. They had so much confidence. They dressed really well, but they didn't think about it. And I just knew they had it figured out, and it was really appealing and attractive to me. So I thought, it just struck me. I thought, these girls are young, they're insecure, they may be beautiful, but they are not as cool. So I feel like what I try to do in my shop and what I kind of grew into was, learn how to dress and learn how you look really great, and then again, just forget about it. And it's something I delight in, and I express myself that way. But as a woman, I feel like there's so many things to do, and just dressing isn't. It's just a delight. It's not the most important thing. So I felt like I learned that at Vogue, which is odd because it's a fashion magazine, but those women really had it figured out, and they were really great role models, and they worked really hard. So that was a big influence. And then my other big influence was my own mother, because she was super creative, and I grew up, painting on stones and sewing my own clothes. And it's a story I've told before, but we moved every 2 years, and she, kind of in an attempt to let us assimilate to where we were, she always let us do our own rooms. So I had just amazing bedrooms. I had this one where I turned it into a little Swiss chalet where I painted wood beams on and had a little Provençal bedspread. She let my brother put this foreign SETI type wallpaper up on the wall that was all these nude women, like half nudes.
Naked.
Naked, and kind of. and a fur bedspread and red carpeting. So she just really let us be creative, and I learned to sew, and I really developed my love of making things and creating at home in all those years. So she was a big influence.
Mine is the guy up on your right is my dad, and he was a super encourager. Even though he, when I was in school and wanted to go to design school, he said, "I'll help you go to regular school, and then you can do whatever you want to." And so regular school was Ole Miss, and I went there, and I got out of school, and I was like, I wanted to go to New York. He said, "You see that Monte Carlo out there?" We were standing in the carport, and it was out in the driveway. I said, "Yeah." He said, "You take that Monte Carlo and you sell that, and you go to New York City and see if you can figure it out." It was a pretty cool way of going, you know what? I kind of capped you a couple of years ago, but you know what? See if you can go parlay the Monte Carlo. So anyway, my whole family was always into clothes, and my grandparents had dry goods store. We had they had furniture store and a hardware store and a clothing store in Pelahatchie, Mississippi, which is not on the map. But anyway, so we were kind of always into clothes as a family. And my older brother was a super cool dresser. And for those of you who are in your mid plus 50s, you'll remember the TV shows around that time were like I Spy and Get Smart and all these sort of spy shows. There was always guys in pretty cool, really close cut suits. And then also Dick Van Dyke on the Dick Van Dyke Show was a really cool dresser too. But the guy I loved the most back then was Sidney Poitier. And I remember seeing To Sir With Love, which has that beautiful song sung by Lulu. I don't know if anybody has seen that, but if you hadn't, you should see it. It is a killer. And then also In the Heat of the Night, which was supposedly about Mississippi, with he and Rod Steiger. And the way he carried himself was always this sort of quiet force. Really, he carried himself beautifully and always looked great in his clothes. And his name was Sidney, and I was like, okay, I can kind of identify with that. And so those are kind of my two of my style heroes. And I find it every day, though. Whenever you walk around, you see people that you go, that guy looks cool. And sometimes it's the guy with the Atlanta United T-shirt on. So
I saw that guy earlier, yeah. All right. How has your brand touched someone deeply?
Okay, so I'm going to tell this story. That it was so sweet, but a longtime customer passed away a while, not too terribly long ago, and his daughter let me know that he had wanted to make sure before he died that he was buried in a Sid suit. So when I told Sid that story, it was super sweet and emotionally. Just thought, wow, that's kind of the best compliment to have somebody do that. So I think that touched Sid the most deeply. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know how deeply he felt about the suit, but it was a big compliment. So
he was about 80-something years old, and he was a lawyer, and he had retired, and he would sneak down to our store to buy a suit, and he'd really come down to smoke a cigar. And he'd come and he'd hang out on the patio around JCT, and we'd just sit out there and talk. And I wasn't so busy those days because we didn't have a lot of business, but he was just always so gentle and wise, and spent time with me just kind of like talking about things. And then when I heard that, you're like, you know what, it's really, clothes happen to be my medium, but that's the real art of what we do is relationships. I hope that's what we really strive to be is good friends and good caretakers of the people that come see us.
Good story. Describe the voice and tone of Sid and Ann Mashburn.
Well, I hope we have a voice and tone that you can feel when you come into the store. I mean, we talked about some of those values we have and how we try to do great customer service. But on our website, I feel like that's also a great expression of our voice and tone. We have our oldest daughter, who's 27, has always worked with us from when she was in high school and helped us do some of the art direction to when she was in the middle of college, and she helped me start defining my own brand. But we love the English language. We like to write a lot, and I feel like she is a really great. She's a great copywriter. We have a certain style that we hope is familiar enough that when you see something of ours on our website, it looks like us. But it's very sweet for me because she really is an expression of both Sid and I. So I think she's a great conduit for both of us. So I feel like I hope we're a little bit of a sense of humor, where I think very our voice is one that speaks of classicism with some frivolity. So do you?
Well, the other piece is I tell the guys in the store, because you want your guys in the store to have this sort of gentle confidence, like be approachable and be accessible, but also kind of not swagger. That's a little too far, but something that tells another person that comes in, I can trust this guy. I can kind of count on him. So as our tailors, who are mostly all Laotian, that's where we got Ocean's 11, Laotians 11. They talk about the art. They say, you got to have good talk, and you got to have good touch. And it's so true. It's like you got to be able to keep the ball in the air, but you also have to know how to touch a man in a way that feels comfortable with him and gives him confidence, but isn't too weird. And so it's a delicate point. But anyway, the other piece is we tell the guys also is we want to be a little bit like James Brown. We want to appear loose, but it's got to be tight. And so you can't run your business if it's not tight. And you got to have a pretty good set of protocols. So we try to make it look easy, but it's not. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. And so part of it is up on the screen here. We, after 3 or 4 years, we said, shoot, we can't keep on with the oral tradition because we're growing. So we got to get this stuff down on paper. And as I mentioned earlier, the hopefulness and helpfulness was something that really we didn't bring. I mean, we came with it, but we really met it head on in Atlanta. And the next two is honesty and hard work came from our tailors, because I asked our master tailor, Dow, who's super, super unbelievable. I said, what are you looking for when you hire a tailor? He said, I'm looking for honesty and hard work. And that's it. And so, the other piece is the humility that comes with what we do, because when a guy walks out of the dressing room and you got to pop down on your knees and turn his pants under, you're kind of in a compromised position. But it's a position of power, because you're telling this guy, hey, man, I got you. I'm in control of taking care of you. And so all of that combination leads to honor. And Ann and I and my daughter and David Supple that works with us kind of got this down on paper. And it's kind of been our guiding light. Now, let me just qualify this. We don't live up to that every day, but that's our North Star, is trying to live up to that every day. So anyway, that's the voice that goes along with what Elizabeth and Ann really try to put across online and in any sort of media communication we have.
What have you done that's gone viral?
It's a little embarrassing, but it was good for business, so it wasn't so embarrassing. Early on, Ann and I, she worked at Vogue, and I had friends from Condé Nast, so I knew Jim Moore, who was the fashion director for GQ forever. And he always liked the way I dressed, because in New York, everybody wears black, and that's like, I never wore black. I was like always wearing bright clothes and things that were a little, I don't mean to say they were Southern, but they were more Southern. And so he always liked that. And so he called me and said, hey, man, we want to have a party in your new store. Can we come down there and have a party? And so he came down, brought the GQ team. They had a party. And part of it was because they also saw the allure of Atlanta. And they're like, we don't have a great footprint in the South. We got to kind of post up down there and let people know, because there's a lot going on in Atlanta we'd like to be associated with. So after he came down, he's like, man, you guys look looked pretty cool, the way y'all put it together and the way your customers are dressing. And so they named me as one of the best dressed guys in America. And it wasn't.
I'm going to tell a funny story about this photo shoot. It was actually really early on in the early days, so there was hardly anybody to run the shop. So they wanted them all to fly to New York to get their picture taken.
And that's Matt Lambert and Pete Samuelson on the other side of me. Yeah, that's him.
So there was nobody to run the shop but me and Titus Brown. I don't know if anybody knows Titus. And this really sweet Thai salesman,
Hal
Choice, who was about 70. So it was a really odd crew that day, and thankfully only about 2 people came in. But the better story is that, and I've never told this story, but the night before they were getting ready to get on the plane, the young guys wanted to cut out at 7 o'clock. They're like, we got to get on the plane. We got to look good tomorrow. And Sid was like, what the heck? I've worked, 25 years to get my picture taken in it. I'm still here. You're still here. You think this happened to you?
We had to set them straight.
Yeah. So they all worked late and then got on the early flight and came home the next night because they had to run the shop the next day.
And they work late every day now. So and that's the other thing is we work hard for what we do. We grind it out, and not because we're the hardest working guys, but we love what we do, and it goes for every single person in our company. I would not trade a single one of them. We have the greatest, besides Evan, we have the greatest team in the country in business. So.
Whoa, that was a fancy transition. All right, so I think Q&A is gonna go over well. I'll kick it off. Thanks for doing this. All right, everyone, ask your questions. Use Made in Atlanta, the hashtag. All right, first question is, you mentioned that you weren't trying to create a brand, but the brand is part of, you're using your own names, and obviously the brand is a big part of what you do. The decision that you made of putting a ping pong table in there, that's a brand decision. Were you acting just from the gut? You had never opened a store before. Were these things that just felt natural in the early days, where you were it felt right to put in a ping pong table, it felt right to, design it this way, but you weren't thinking about it as brand. Can you talk through that process a little bit?
Everything we do, we're really thoughtful about. So I say we didn't start out to be a brand. We did always want to scale it, and I think from the minute I met Sid, you did always want to be a designer and be known to be a designer. But after you start working for other people, and you really know what it's like to work, that in and of itself isn't really the important thing. If you just start out and say, I want to make something great and make it my way, which is really the beauty of what we did. Because we didn't start out trying to be a designer in our 20s, we were 45, we could put our own money into it, and we could make choices that we were the only ones that had to live with. So we said, we're going to do it now, and we're going to do it exactly the way we want to do it, and then if it doesn't go, that's okay. But you can only make those choices if you really do it yourself and use your own money and are willing to lose it. So I think we always wanted to grow and be something that had value and became an expression of ourselves, but we started out just wanting to make the first store great, and then we wanted to make my store great, and then the website great, and then the next store great, and now we're trying to make it all great.
And Ann, she warned me early on, she said, you know what, you got to be cool with this if this doesn't really fly. You got to be comfortable with being a single store shopkeeper if this doesn't go. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't know. I didn't know what it'd be like to
Well,
run a
I
store.
actually said that to discourage him because I didn't want to do it.
And it didn't work.
Because I didn't think he'd really want to just do that.
But the thing about it is again, when you start doing this and you realize the people coming in is more than half the action of meeting cool people and just talking to them and finding out what's going on with them, and then you're able, if you can connect with them and then share something you like, that's awesome.
And I think we knew from being educated and just looking at all these shops all over the world, we knew we had something. Sid was absolutely convinced he could make something really special, And he really did start a lot. I mean, he was one of the first. I give him so much credit for really getting in ahead of menswear. I mean, he really had something to say, and it's our point of view, and we knew also if we just stuck to that we would differentiate ourselves. No matter people may like it or not like it, but it's just our point of view.
All right, so first question, and I'm sure you guys get this question a lot. This is from Isaac Trotter. What do you guys wear when you're not wearing Sidney and Mashburn? And also, what do you can't be caught at like Publix wearing like not looking good. So how does that go down?
Actually, no, in a weird way, that's the freedom of being me, is I can wear anything I want. Because people just go, I guess that's okay, you know? So I can get away with some things other guys may not be able to get away with. But what do you wear? Anne's a little more expressive.
Well, I mean, women, Sid is very jealous. If guys shop with him and they shop with somebody else, he gets really upset. But girls are more fickle, so I love fashion. I love my own clothes, but I actually really love other designers. I mean, I love Manolo Blahnik shoes, even though I wear my own shoes. Anything that's really well done. I wear these amazing Mexican shirts by this designer, Miguel Andrina, who I love. So, T-shirts and stuff. I don't make that many of those. But Sid struggles with workout wear because he doesn't make that. And so his workout wear is so old school that it's really...
I think it's like 30 years old, which tells you how much I work out, too. So. But I like some Tiger sneakers or Adidas. We love Adidas and Tretorns, of course. I still play tennis in Tretorns. And you know what? I still have some Lands' End stuff that
we have a great collection of old stuff.
Yeah, a lot of old stuff. And I don't throw that much away. I mean, I'm not a hoarder, but I don't. I mean, maybe, but
we used to be really great thrift shoppers, so we have a lot of really good thrift store stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Daniel Wiggins asked, so many fashion brands struggle today. What's your advice for being successful in the fashion industry?
Really do your own thing. I mean, that's probably the thing I learned most from Ralph Lauren is a guy that came to work with me out in Land's End, had worked for Ralph for 30 plus years, and he had to go. He ran the suit business for Ralph, and he said he had to go show him the sales results. And so he goes in. This was in the 80s. And so Ralph goes, how's the business? And my friend John goes, it's tough. We're getting killed by the black suit guys. And Ralph's like, who are the black suit guys? And he says, well, Giorgio Armani, Calvin Klein, Hugo Boss, Donna Karan, even Kenneth Cole. And Ralph's like, let them have their day. Ours will come back. And it was a great lesson. It's kind of like the lesson you hear about when you're swimming. If you're swimming in a race, you don't look at the lane beside you. Try not to look at other people. Really, really, really try not to look at other people. Do your own thing. And also, what we tell everybody that comes to work with us, I'm sure Scotty and Jonathan Ping kind of wince when I say this, but get to work before everybody else and leave after everybody else leaves. So do everything you can to make your work. If it's a drudge, don't do it, but find joy in what you do and find what you love to do. Whether it's, in fashion also, there's so many jobs. You can be a stylist, you can be in production, you can be in merchandising, you can be in finance, you can be in logistics, you can be in warehouse. I mean, there's a million things to do that are associated with the fashion business. And it's a fantastic business. It's a hard business. But
it's mostly business. I mean, business is problem solving. So I think that the biggest advice is just to expect that. But every day there's going to be problems to solve.
All right, you are an awesome human. Sarah Price right here in the front row asked, what's your process? I talked about the mood boards earlier, the pin boards at the office. What's your process for putting those together? Is it gut? What's the process of putting a good mood board together?
Well, we have different kinds. I mean, the ones that you saw in the beginning are actually our very original ones, and that's just stuff that we've accumulated over the years, and we've always had those. Sid and I, you get your little cubby at Condé Nast, and the only thing you have to do is you have, a 2x2 bulletin board, and so you just put all your stuff on it. So it's just a silly representation of stuff that we love. But we use a lot of boards in the store to inspire us or give us just an idea around a collection, and it's just could be a candy wrapper for the color, it could be fabric, but it's really no more than the little box you had as a kid that had an acorn in it, and your birthday candles from your 10th birthday, just stuff that you love that's meaningful. So
even our I can remember when we put a pack of the turquoise American Spirit on the board. You know what American Spirits are? 6. That became a color for our pair of shorts that we did. So we garment dyed them, and that turquoise blue is really sweet. But we'll take anything. If we see a picture of something, whether it's a picture of whether it's a painting or a photograph or even an obituary. We have an obituary of the guy that he invented electric football. Does anybody know what that is? Yeah, exactly. I love that thing. So of course I got his obituary right on my wall. But anything that sort of sparks an interest in us, it could be a leaf, it could be a piece of grass, it can be something that just really kind of takes you somewhere. Music we're big on. So we play records in the store, and we try to play vinyl all the time. But sometimes we kind of drift off and play the music, the digital music. But
I'm going to plug. Sid has a radio show, WSID. It's on 1690.
It's not very good, but
it's very good.
The music's good anyway. DJ's terrible.
One of the best logos I've seen in the last year.
All right.
That was your daughter, right?
Yeah.
It's a good logo. All right. Billy Boozer asked, what was the biggest challenge with introducing e-commerce? So you start the business as a traditional brick and mortar, and then you're playing in a totally different game with e-commerce. How did that transition go, and what were the challenges?
It's hard. The first day the website crashed. It's like, yes, we are in business. But it was the toughest part is because I came from Land's End, where when I left, I think e-commerce was probably 45 to 55% of the business. I mean, it was a huge piece of it, and that was back in, when was that? The early 2000s. So e-commerce was still fairly nascent. But I think probably the biggest challenge, and Ann can speak more candidly on this, but is figuring out who was going to help us set it up. Because the spend on setting up a website can be a black hole.
And we're designers, so we had a really clear idea of what we wanted it to look like. So giving up control to somebody else to say, you can do it for us wasn't something we wanted to do. So just finding the right partner, basically it was just like they spoke a different language. We didn't understand how to actually do it. So kind of trusting somebody to work with us and visually make what was in our heads, and that was hard. And then we're really, we love to, the technical part of it, we wanted to do a lot of it on our own. Sang, who's here, who's taking pictures, we outsourced our photography for a little while. And then, I had been a photo stylist for all these years. I thought, I just can't do this anymore. I'm going to, we built a studio in our attic that had no air conditioning, and Sang's really short, so it was lucky because it was only like 6 feet tall, and
it was jinx.
Yeah, but we just thought we can do this, so that was kind of fun actually. But just the code, all the stuff we didn't know how to do, it was hard to figure out how to let somebody do that for us.
So how much do you guys need to be ahead of, or how far out are you thinking about future lines and where things are going in 18 or 19?
We're working right now. We're starting on fall 2018, which is that 14 months, 13 months from now. It's a little early, actually, for us. In the past, we've been able to work a little bit closer to the season because we're quasi-vertical, so we go straight from the manufacturing to retail. But also, all the mills that we work with have have dialed their calendars up, so we have to kind of follow their lead. And they're really, that's probably one of the secrets of the business that not a lot of people acknowledge. The fabric mills are really, in a strange way, the catalyst for everybody's creation. And so they really kick off the season because they're the ones that come in with sort of sample swatches and sample patterns and the newer colors. And, you know, with us, we have to kind of rely on them because our MOQs, or what's referred to as minimum order quantities, are not large enough that we can drive our own manufacturing of our fabrics. So we have to kind of buy from people. And so we rely on them to really kick it off. So that's women's and men's. We really work on sort of the same.
It's the same design calendar as anybody else would do. You go to the fabric shows twice a year in February and September.
Yep.
And then so we'll go see fabrics in September for spring of 18.
All of 18.
Fall of 18.
We've already got spring 18.
I get mixed up. I go in the shop and I can't even remember what we designed.
All right, Bhargava, who's a photographer somewhere around here, who works with his wife, asked, what's the biggest hurdle of working together as a married couple?
Ooh. You will be here all night. I'm sorry. It is hard as hell.
You know, it's especially hard in a creative business because you really, it's very personal how you feel about what you feel. So if somebody doesn't feel the same way about what you feel, you get very testy.
Especially the person that you love and kind of, you know, been with for 30-something years. You're like, what do you mean you don't like that? It's like, I don't like it. And so it cuts close to the bone quickly. And so we, our desks are about 47 and a half inches away from each other. No joke. Actually, 48. It's supposed to be 48. And so it's a little close. Actually, Ann needs more space than I do. I could, you know, barge in on her anytime, but it's difficult. And we have different talents. I mean, she sees, her eyes, like when she looks through, she works closely with Ping on the photo work, she can look through the camera and see a picture so quickly. I don't really have that talent, but I can see a swatch come to life in a garment, and she doesn't really have that talent. And she's a beautiful writer and a great, very expressive in communicating. So it's a talent I don't really have as well. And so it's really a complimentary.
Yeah, on a good day we see each other as compliments, but there's a lot of friction.
It is, and so it's you have to just kind of grit your teeth and forgive and forget and move on sometimes, because it's difficult.
I wouldn't recommend it, but it's worked really well for us. And we're stuck. I can't quit.
Yeah, you guys are locked in forever. All right, a few more questions. Ask now. Rashidi asked, and I actually don't even know what this means, so hopefully you guys do. What's next for online M2M? What's M2M?
Made to measure. Made to measurement, actually. We coined it made to measurement because that's what the tailors in the shop call it, because that's actually properly what it is. Yeah. So.
What's next is it's been great to launch it and to see it grow. We've made it pretty complicated because we like the details to be pretty spit spot, and so it's been a labor of love, and it had a great reception so far. We've made it a few different ways, so you can interact in the store, or you can interact online, or we even offer you FaceTime or Skype as an opportunity to fit online with us. And what's happened is that's almost turned into slightly more of a novelty, the fitting online, but what it has turned into is a consultation, because guys call us and say, man, I'm going to a party tonight. What does creative casual mean, or creative formal mean? And so in a sense, you realize that really what our role is a solution provider and kind of a trusted neighbor. You know, hey man, what do I wear tonight? And guys are so loath to ask any sort of direction on anything, but it's a great moment when you catch them in in the dressing room, they're like, man, I didn't know if these pants were really going to work. You know, and you're like, it's cool. Don't sweat it, man. They look good. And they're like, well, should they be short like yours? And you're like, no. Just stay right there, man. And because we had a guy, and I know some of you know him in here, and he insisted on having his pants look like mine when he got them tailored. I'm like, no, you do not want this. And I was just stupid enough to roll with his request and do it for him. And his wife comes in, 4, 5, 6 weeks later. I'm like, hey, how does so-and-so like his pants? She's like, he hadn't worn them once. And so you have to remember that people are coming to you for real advice, not just a sign off or a push off, but like, what do I do here, man?
For them. And what we think is people are best served when they feel the most like themselves. So we always just give advice that we think is fitting for them. We just prescribe, but we don't really dictate. We don't want everybody to look like Sid because
it's not you. And it's like, really, I mean, we if we can get a guy to figure out how to sort of navigate the uncertainties of his wardrobe and what he's got to go do that day and how he can best be served by what he's wearing. And most, I'm sure some of you know that quote by Dion that says, if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good. If you play good, they pay good. And there's truth to that. I mean, if you look good, you feel good. And when people go, man, you look good. Did you lose some weight, or did you get a haircut, or it kind of puts a little extra glide in your step. And so that's what we're trying to do, is make guys and girls feel good. One things Ann said early on is that what she loved to do is help women feel confident and beautiful. I mean, you unlock so much when somebody feels that way when they leave your store. So. Sorry to give you the long answer.
I like the Dion quote. Of course, McNeil knew it. All right, Boo Digital asked, what's the legacy you want to leave behind with Sid and Mashburn?
Well, it's been awesome to see my clothes in the Goodwill, so that's been really great. When they get sold again, that feels good. But it's a family business. That was one of the sweetest things that happened is we started our business in 2007, and then in 2008 the economy went really not great, but we were starting to hire people, and as much fun as it was creating the business and making it look just the way we wanted and making beautiful clothes, the thing that thrilled me the most was building a business and then hiring people and them serving their families by working in the environment that we built this company. So building a company is the thing I'm most proud of. So my legacy would be to continue the company and continue to make it an amazing place for everybody to work. Selfishly, I hope that the things we create, the brand always stands for that, the things that we love and how we make to like people look. And then I hope that the women in our family, we have 5 daughters, who want to work in my company will carry it on, but other people as well. So I just want the company to keep being amazing.
I can only echo that. I mean, the thing is you whenever you build something like this, there's a whole lot of heart you put into it, and it's for those of you, and I'm sure everybody in here has an artistic streak, or you wouldn't be in here, or you wouldn't be doing what we all do. But what we do is an expression of our heart. So we're kind of putting it out there a little bit, hoping somebody will like it. And so it's incumbent on us to offer something that's not something that's fleeting and that's long lasting. So the design and the style piece for us is almost like that's the ante or the table stakes. If we don't come with that, we shouldn't even be in business. But what comes after that quickly is what kind of experience are we offering when you walk in the door? Are we making you feel good? And then quickly, what's the quality and what's the value proposition that we're offering? Are we giving you something that's an honest value that's good for us and for you? And then ultimately, it kind of culminates in service and hospitality. It's like, how do we treat you so that you feel fantastic? So if we can continue to do that, and as Ann said, provide for the people that help us, whether it's the people that work with us or the vendors that we work with and their families. It's a win-win-win.
All right, let's cut it there. Everyone, give Sid and Ann a big round of applause. So seriously, when's the podcast? When's the radio show on?
It's on Wednesday nights, 5 to 6, on Saturday mornings from 8 to 9, and Sunday nights from 6 to 7, or
You
7
can
to 8.
get it on SoundCloud on your phone.
Yeah.
SoundCloud.
Hey,
Anything
listen,
else?
thank y'all. This is awesome, and what you've got going here is really, really, really cool, and we're excited about what y'all are doing for downtown and for Atlanta in general.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.